Hello, and welcome to Bonus Commentary. My name is Derek, and thank you so much for joining me today. I'm once again hopping aboard the One Monstrous Moment train because as sure as poo through a goose, you guys seem to really like my last one.
I guarantee it'll go through Godzilla like crap through a goose.
Big cheers for the warm reception, I really appreciate it, and I had a great time making it, so I thought I'd try it again. Thanks again to everybody who helped me on the last one. As a kind of recap as to why we're here, the Omni Viewer, a kaiju fan and prominent name in the community, has set forth a kind of video essay to look back at all kaiju media, the best moments of kaiju carnage, and why it is we love this genre in its various forms. Whether it be Godzilla, Gamera, or anything else in between, it's fair game. But unlike last time, we are not talking turtles. This time, we're talking about the king himself. This is to honor the fact that Godzilla Minus One is dropping in theaters tomorrow, and you can bet whatever it is you call what you sit on, I will be in the theaters. I am very excited. As for today's topic, Omni said something that really caught my ear.
You can branch out into other kaiju movies, you can branch out into TV shows or cartoons or comics.
And it was the mention of comic books that really got my attention. And those of you who've been around the channel long enough know that I do really like my comic books. This also seemed appropriate considering that this whole prompt is based off of One Marvelous Scene, which is a series of movies that are based on a series of comic books. So for me, it was no question. If I'm being honest, I wanted to take a step away from the norm. Everybody does seem to talk about the movies, but not so much the comics. Godzilla has a long and storied trade paperback history. Everything from shooting hoops with Charles Barkley to his fights with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This was a fun one. There were so many moments to choose from that I had to narrow it down just a little bit further. So I took today's edition title into a bit more literal context. Minus One Monstrous Moment, or Minus One Monster. And it was there that I decided to talk about Godzilla's best kill that I've ever seen in comic book form. And to me, the winner goes to Godzilla In Hell. So before I begin, I do suggest you pick these up. They come in a trade paperback form, you don't have to get them in singles like I did. And if you're worried that you're not like a particularly strong reader, which I'm personally not, I hesitate to even call it a quick read, as there's only one issue that really has text to it. Everything else is told through either visuals or onomatopoeia, with just a wee bit of dialogue. There's not that much. And to kind of sweeten the pot, you might even recognize some of these artists. Bob Eggleton, for example, whose signature photorealistic images of Godzilla is hard to ignore. I've also come across his high fantasy work of dragons as of late, and honestly, I'm a huge fan. Or even James Stoke, who wrote and inked Godzilla Half-Century War, which is another brilliant story that I highly recommend if you haven't read this already. And if that hasn't sold you on this book, I honestly don't know what to tell you. Maybe just to go seek help. You need it. Well, our story is fairly simple. So with that, Godzilla went to hell in 2015 and tread headfirst into the abyss, with some visual imagery that you might recognize. Literally everything from the monolithic "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here," which Godzilla immediately shows his displeasure towards.
Wow, that's a lot of words. Too bad I'm not reading them.
And ooh boy, does our guy have a day. He fights a power plant, he fights humanity, like a lot of it. He fights himself, which, isn't actually himself. He falls down again.
I have been falling for 30 minutes!
It's all he can do to stay out of a fight, which is kind of hard to do. It is hell after all. Though try as it might, even the mighty armies of hell itself can't stop Godzilla. Skipping ahead because I don't want you to use this as a way to quote-unquote read the comic, we come to the final issue, where we see the titular Titan walking through a bleak and icy landscape, nearly frozen to his core. It isn't until he spots a monolithic mountain that he is granted any form of reprieve. There at its base, we see these grotesque trees, housing very simplistic imps. And considering all Godzilla has faced prior to this moment, he doesn't need to pay them any mind. But what he does mind is what's catching his eye. At the summit is the devil himself. I think. Without any kind of designation or word, anything, it's hard to be 100% sure. I just interpret this to be the devil. And honestly, given the position he's in, the implications are a little horrifying. We'll get back to that later. His goal in sight and another fight imminent, Godzilla rushes up the side of the mountain to rip the devil from his perch, but suddenly falls. Hell's ruler is unimpressed. Then something rather unexpected happens. For the first time, Godzilla seemingly gives up. Perhaps it's his weakened spirit from fighting the denizens of hell, or maybe just too much physical pain has finally taken its toll. His arms outstretched, he allows the imps to eat him, down to his very bones. The imagery here is definitely evocative of Destroya. Seemingly gone from this world and the next, Godzilla... The imps, all of them, go back to the bone pile and reform Godzilla. You look me in the eye and you try and tell me this isn't a monstrous moment. When even the devil itself looks back at you with a sense of surprise and fear in its eyes, yeah, that's worthy of discussion. To add to this moment, Godzilla doesn't even need to open his mouth anymore to perform his atomic breath. He has a multitude of them. For now, Godzilla is legion, and in a single blast, the former ruler of hell is no more, along with half that mountainside. With Hell's Gate unattended, Godzilla leaves
and returns back to the mortal realm.
As he does so, we're left with an excerpt from the Buddha.
It is better to conquer yourself than to win 1,000 battles. Then the victory is yours. It cannot be taken from you, not by angels or by demons, heaven or hell.
It wasn't until going back to this moment that I realized something. If this is Satan, and he's at the gates of hell, where you escape to get to the mortal realm, does that mean Godzilla saved us from an actual biblical apocalypse in this story? That's horrifying considering everything he goes through in this comic. I feel like we definitely dodged a bullet here. While this comic alone has a ton of amazing images and a lot of kills, this moment for me really showcases Godzilla's willpower, and oftentimes surprising level of intelligence and resourcefulness. We also got to see another moment in Godzilla we don't get to see a lot of. A moment of failure, not at the defeat of his foes, but of just a simple mountainside. This could be me looking way too far into it. If we're looking at it from a metaphor standpoint, I think the evil in Godzilla is represented by the devil, and by the imps eating him away to a fresh, clean new start. He's able to take on that former version of himself and start his life anew, a fresh slate, if you will. Or maybe this is just a really cool moment, I shouldn't look that far into it. Giant monster blows up the devil from the Bible, and that's it, the end. So Dave Watcher wrote this particular issue, as well as providing the illustrations for Godzilla Cataclysm, which explains a lot. It definitely looks very similar. Again, another great comic if you haven't read it already. To me, this moment has yet to be rivaled in any media, because just by premise alone, Godzilla finds himself in a situation I don't think we'll ever see him in, at least on the big screen. Dealing with a problem we won't ever see him in ever again. Fighting the devil. Watcher's art is superb, evocative, and, well, horrific in the best way. I also want to thank Marq Withers for providing the Buddha voiceover. I've been a guest over on his podcast Collect or Reject, where we talk about other comics and their dollar value going forward. You can listen to it wherever you listen to your podcasts. And be sure to listen to his other episodes. There are some great things in there and some familiar faces. Or familiar voices, because it's a podcast.
Another big thank you to Steamed Iguana for helping me fine-tune this particular video. You can find him here on YouTube as Steamed Iguana, all one word. He's also a kaiju YouTuber, but he's also been working on his art lately, so please be sure to support him on Instagram and other socials.
Thank you for watching my one monstrous moment. If you stuck around this long, please consider hitting that subscribe button, the like, leave a comment of your favorite monstrous moment. Last time I say it, I promise. For this video. Have you read the book before? Tell me all about it. I have other kaiju content that I do here. I did a previous One Monstrous Moment about Gamera. I turned all of your favorite Godzilla monsters into D&D characters for your home games. And as always, folks, please be sure to take care of yourselves out there, everybody.